times, stabbed 13. I don't know why these men attacked me. All I know is that society made it comfortable for them to do so. They took out their anger or mental illness or whatever it was when they decided to wreak havoc on a prostitute, knowing that I couldn't go to the police, and even if I did, I wouldn't be taken seriously. These were the powerful words of Brenda Myers Powell in her 2015 article titled, "My 25 Years as a Prostitute." And sadly, her story is not unique. Every day, thousands of prostitutes are abused, raped, and taken advantage of right here in California. Sexually transmitted disease rates are high, and health checks are extremely rare, and this is all due to the lack of regulation in the industry. There is no use in denying the fact that prostitution has been, and may always be, a very taboo topic that many people are uncomfortable talking about. But the bottom line is, sex for money is going to happen no matter if it's legal or not. So why not increase the regulation in the industry through legalization? As college students, we might not be aware of how prevalent this issue is, but prostitution happens right here in SLO County. After thorough research and seeing firsthand legalized prostitution in Amsterdam, I'm confident that the legalization will help solve current issues in the sex working industry. Today, I'll be informing you on the reasons that prostitution should be legalized. I'll begin by explaining to you how it will improve the safety of those in the sex working industry, reduce coerced teen prostitution, generate an enormous tax revenue, and promote the American moral ideal of the choice that we have over our bodies. First, the safety of prostitutes would largely increase if the practice were to be government regulated. A study in San Francisco through the U.S. National Library of Medicine found that 82% of prostitutes have been sexually assaulted and 68% have been raped. Sadly, abuse and rape are not uncommon in the sex working industry. And because the government's laws against prostitution prevent sex workers who are abused by their pimps and madams and clients from receiving the help because they fear that they will be getting in trouble themselves. Melissa Hope Ditmore commented on this idea in a book called Prostitution and Sex Work in 2011. She stated that because the police don't address this issue, it implies that prostitutes are an appropriate target for violence, and this is not okay. The government gives little to no sympathy for these cases when prostitutes come to them asking for help. The legalization of prostitution would mean that prostitutes could run their own businesses and be relieved from the control of pimps and madams controlling their lives and taking large sums of their money. Also, legalization of prostitution would help implement consistent health checks and protection that would decrease the likelihood of STDs. An article called Legalizing Prostitution Could Reduce HIV Infections, the author Eleanor Goldberg outlined the reasons that this would happen. She stated that the stigmatization of prostitutes prevents sex workers from going to healthcare workers and receiving help. She also stated that because of the fear that police will use condoms as evidence, a lot of prostitutes don't use them. The legalization would help ensure sex workers receive the proper healthcare benefits and are not discriminated against by their choice of profession. Next, the legalization of prostitution would help reduce teen prostitution at an early age. In a Viewpoint article called Prostitution Should Be Legalized, the author Mark Liberator stated that every year, 3 million teens are prostituted. That is nearly 1% of the U.S. teen population and would be the same as the entire population of Chicago being coerced into prostitution. Because teenagers' brains have not fully developed yet, they don't have the ability to make rational decisions, and so oftentimes they are exploited and manipulated by sex working opportunists who bring them into the industry. Preventing teen prostitution through licenses and regulation could help start to prevent this from happening. Next, if prostitution were to be legal, the government would benefit from an enormous tax revenue on the income of sex workers. Andrew Weisberg wrote in an article in 2016 called The Cost of Keeping Prostitution Illegal. He estimated that the U.S. could generate $20 billion every year in tax revenue if prostitution were to be legalized. $20 billion is the same as 1/3 of the amount of money that we would need to make public college tuition free for everyone in the United States. And that was according to a 2014 article from The Atlantic on how much the government would have to spend to make public college tuition free. Currently, the government actually wastes countless money and resources on enforcing prostitution laws. It takes away from the time that officers can spend on the streets enforcing laws that will help the safety of cities. Each arrest takes the officer on the streets for up to 3 hours, and the prostitutes will more than likely just go right back to the industry, because prostitution is not something that a lot of people want to do, it's something that they have to do to survive. And taking away this right brings up a lot of moral dilemmas that go against the very American moral ideal of the autonomy that we should have over our bodies. And this brings up my point about the right to live, to survive, and choose. And this is a right that everybody in this room has, and prostitutes should have as well. Unfortunately, today we live in a society where prostitution sometimes is the only viable career option for women who struggle to get by every day. If prostitution is a way to ensure life for those who struggle with homelessness or poverty, they should reserve the right to do so. People may oppose the concept of prostitution because they disagree with the humaneness of the profession, but people have the fundamental right to make decisions for themselves, especially those regarding their own bodies, and this should not be taken away. Currently, prostitution is legal in 77 countries and illegal in 109. And this was according to an article called The Legal Status of Prostitution by Chartspin Statistics. The fact that many countries have already legalized prostitution is just a small testament to the benefits that legalization can bring. The U.S. should follow the lead of countries such as Canada, Mexico, South America, Australia, and many countries in Europe and legalize prostitution as well. Today, I explained to you how the legalization of prostitution would increase the safety of those in the sex working industry, reduce teen prostitution, generate an enormous tax revenue, and give Americans the autonomy over our bodies that we deserve. The legalization would help sex workers who are currently in very vulnerable and dangerous positions receive the help that they need to leave the industry or practice their jobs in much safer ways. As students of a legal voting age, we may very well see prostitution come up on the next ballot. I encourage you all to look past the stereotypes and stigma surrounding prostitution and see the true benefits that legalization can bring. I'm not encouraging the support of prostitution as a profession. I'm encouraging you all to think and talk about this issue, which will begin to reduce the stigma associated with it. And next time you see the prostitution on the ballot, vote for legalization.